Welcome back to First Cut. Jon Dunning here with Jason Alt. What do you get when you add 3 fingers of 13 Reasons Why, 2 parts Riverdale, add a splash of The Warriors, and a pinch of The Goonies? Well, you get The Boonies, directed by Brad T. Gottfred. Jason, The Boonies.
Hello, Boonies. Reunited at last.
Did I mention I hate him yet?
Oh, don't worry, y'all. My huge penis broke my fall.
Get in, Chuck! I wish I could be there with you, but unfortunately, if you're watching this, that means I'm dead. In light of my untimely demise, I hid a treasure of unspeakable power and worth inside the walls of Boone High. And when I say unspeakable, I mean it's a briefcase full of money. And when I say money, I mean it's exactly $1,164,000. Don't believe me? Just ask the Boonies.
If you were a virgin before you just did that, congrats, you're definitely dying one now.
Boonies, the end is near.
Y'all said no underwear.
The Boonies. Called the Boonies because, you know, they reference the Goonies.
Right, yeah.
Which is itself it's a play on the Goonies, which is itself a play on the Boonies. Because the Goonies lived in the Goondocks, which is what they called their boondocks. So we've come full circle with the references. It's just an Ouroboros eating its own lame pun tail.
Right. Brad T. Gottfred is a genius after all. Jason, I'm confounded by this film. I can't figure out if this was one of the most fun things I've watched as of late, or if it was really stupid. This is just a very confounding film. I know that I enjoyed the hell out of it, though.
It's both. It's both dumb and fun. You know? So what we are celebrating here in the year 2019 is the fact that they have basically packaged all 9 episodes of this show from Go 90, which was, I think you said it was Verizon's streaming service.
Right. You had things like Jeremy John's Awesome-tacular and stuff like that. It was a platform to give like famous YouTube stars their own like web series that kind of go above and beyond their own content.
So some people are very familiar with the Boonies and, all that 9-episode arc. Some people like me were not. So when I saw this basically packaged like a movie, it seemed, it kind of hung as a movie. I think, John, you had said this kind of seems like a TV show pilot. But to me, it really just kind of felt like a movie. And there were, clear delineations between the episodes if you go back in hindsight, but if you give someone this and tell them it's a movie, they'll believe you, which is what happened to me. I didn't realize until after I'd watched all of it that this was 9 parts of a series all pasted together, and they did a real good job. It's seamless.
It is seamless. I did feel like it just had a TV series tone to it. Like it felt like a Riverdale and 13 Reasons Why, that type of cadence to the pacing of the film, it felt like a TV show. And it felt like, it definitely felt like a pilot to me, pilot of a series. It's supposed to kind of be the best display of itself. It's supposed to showcase what the show is going to be and what it's all about. And I felt like it was good, but I think that it was a smart decision, whether they kind of wanted to or not, to make this its own film. I think it plays better as a connected, cohesive film.
Yeah, but I mean, if you binged it, it would just be essentially the same experience. So these are, clearly, hey, was this movie 6 hours? No, it wasn't. It was 9 10-minute parts that made a 90-minute finished product.
Right. Real quick watch. It felt like it went by pretty fast. Well, let's just kind of jump into it. What is the Boonies about?
The Boonies is about a nerd named Doug, and his final wish, after he dies, is to get all his Boonies friends back together, because they were all good friends in middle school. Then they got to high school and became the archetypes they ended up. They became the I guess the mean girl and the nerd and the I don't know. They're not like all of the archetypes
Cowboy
in the group.
Stifler.
Yeah, and then there's like guy who can get girls, and there's like mean girl and kind of nerdy girl, and then like goth chick. But like, either like, what about jocks and nerds? And like all those groups existed outside their group, but it was sort of like the Warriors were like the jocks were their own faction. So anyway, Doug dies, and there is $1 million that they found in a briefcase out in the woods, and he says, I hid it in the school, and everybody in the school's like, oh, we got to go get this money. So he forced his friends to work together to find the money before somebody else found it in their high school, which just happened to have an abandoned wing that everyone thought was haunted. So the friends get together and they do the treasure hunt, essentially.
I guess my biggest issue is I'm not sure who this movie is for. I think it's aimed for a generation that's maybe a generation after, 2 generations after Jason and I. It's not funny. There's definitely some times that the comedy hits. I think that they kind of rest their laurels on certain jokes and certain ongoing themes that they kind of keep playing over and over again.
But if you're not binging it, it's if you go like a couple days between episodes, it's like, oh, okay, that's a thing again, versus you're like, why are you doing a callback to a thing that happened 5 minutes ago? Mm-hmm. Well, maybe it was a completely different episode.
Sure. Or maybe that's where it would shine a little bit more as a series kind of broken up, so it didn't, like you said, seem like you were just kind of saying the same joke over and over again. It all felt kind of weird as far as like tonally as like a half measure. For a while I'm like, I have a feeling this is gonna like kind of go off, and it could have been just like a splatterhouse gore fest. And I think that personally I would have really liked to see that, because I think that the premise is actually really smart. It's not like wholly original, of course, but it knows that it's not trying to be. It's a parody of a lot of different kinds of films and a lot of different kinds of themes. But I think that the fact that it's like there's no real stakes, even when the peril is happening, they just kind of like walk away. Like, something that there's like a confrontation, and then there's like a few quips between whoever's in the conflict, and then they just kind of stop. But it just feels like, man, I just wish I would have seen like the brutal rated R version of this.
So you asked who this is for. This is for people that recognize YouTubers and people who were on the Disney Channel 8 years ago. So this is for teenagers. This is for people that grew up watching, Disney Channel stuff. So they recognize Calum Worthy, or they're on YouTube a lot, and they know who Cody Ko is.
Right.
It's for teenagers. If you're between like 13 and 17, this is great, and that's like a real narrow window. But at the same time, that's who's going to consume Go 90 content. That's who's on YouTube. So for people who think Logan Paul's great, they're gonna really like the Boonies.
Right. It's Riverdale, but just to the next step. It's not quite 13 Reasons Why. There's like, a few curse words in there, but they're saying like blowjob, and they're referencing one of the characters' boobs the entire time. So you're right. It is that hard, like 17-year-old, like for a 17 and 18-year-old. And then once you're done with that, you're probably craving more hardcore fare.
It's just edgy enough to keep teenagers interested. No, this is like a hard 15, because in other countries they have like PG-13 and 15 and 17 and that sort of thing. This is kind of right between PG-13 and R. Like it's just kind of just enough to keep teenagers interested because there's a lot of sexual tension, but it's not too crazy that you wouldn't want your 13-year-old seeing this.
Right. Yeah. And I think that what makes it, or at least what made it enjoyable for me, is that it was done well. Like, I think that it was shot well. It had a nice pacing with the music. The score was real good. It had some cool reoccurring sequences. So you could tell that, the filmmaker, Brad Gottfred, who was also the writer, was a fan of films like The Warriors. These different influences really peppered throughout the runtime really showed, and it was kind of like a love letter to a lot of different genres, and I like that it mixed it together. I just would like to see it with it not even like a bigger budget, because I think he did a pretty good job as far as like the performances and the way it's shot and everything goes, but just to the next extent, or even the sequel to this. I wouldn't mind seeing where it goes.
I mean, Brad Gottfred's no stranger to making films. Mm-hmm. He actually directed his first movie all the way back in 2003, which, The Movie Hero, which starred Jeremy Sisto from 6 Feet Under and Clueless, and Peter Stormare from Fargo and The Big Lebowski. So, he's been at it a while. So you give him a project like this, I'm sure he was glad he got to write it. It's pretty funny. I don't know what else to say about this other than, like, if you're an adult, you'll find some stuff enjoyable about this, and if you're like between like 13 and 17, this is just for you. You'll love it.
Yeah. We can talk a little bit about the performances in here. You have someone like Andi Matichak, who I think this came out before her role in the new Halloween films. So I think she was definitely probably the most obvious seasoned actress. Also Calum Worthy, he was in Austin and Ally for years on the Disney Channel. So with Calum Worthy, these type of films feel like the in-between, where you're just like a little bit too old to be in those Disney shows or Nickelodeon shows still, but you're on your way. You make films like these to get on your way to get your big break, like to be the next Zac Efron, right? So, but I think he killed it. I think this was a good showing from him. And then the other standout I think Cody Ko did pretty well. I'm one of the few that didn't know who he was before this, but I thought he did okay. Like, as far as I thought he was an actor, and I didn't know he was a YouTube star. Yeah,
there's a pretty fine line between just performing on YouTube and being allowed to just be in a movie. I don't think that some people are really bad at acting means it's that hard. I think once you're used to like pretending for a while, and performing, I think you can handle it. So Cody Ko transitioning from, YouTube and white guy rapping to film just seemed fine. Everyone who was on the Disney Channel, they probably shot this kind of more like a TV show than a movie. Everybody, with a few exceptions, was pretty good at acting in this.
Yeah. I mean, besides from another maybe two or three, after those three that we mentioned, though, I feel like there was kind of a steep drop-off, but that's fine. That's something, you don't need Daniel Day-Lewis in your movie about, the Goonie troupe growing up in high school.
Yeah, he would have been the second oldest person in this.
He would have been drinking everyone's milkshake. Yeah, but I had a lot more fun than I thought I would with this film.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect going in. And with a name like the Boonies, you're sort of like, oh, Jesus. But this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would recommend it to probably, we said like a really finite audience, but I think I'd recommend it. I would kind of branch that out for maybe start when you're like around 15, 16, and then, kind of go up from there. Because not only is a teenager going to just be like, oh my God, this was made for me, but even like a young filmmaker or someone that's starting out, pay attention to these shots. You could tell that the person that wrote it and shot it had some chops. Yeah, if you're interested in making film or writing film, this is a good offering.
I think if you're older than 20 and you watch this, you're not going to write an angry comment on this video.
Yeah.
Saying, you said I would like this and you're wrong. I think you'll be like, yeah, that was just fine. It's a quick watch. It's real professionally done. And that's all I really have to say about it. This was real enjoyable.
Yeah. The evolution of dick and fart jokes is now boob and dick jokes still. But nonetheless, thank you.
We did it.
Thank you for checking out our review on the Boonies. Go ahead and like this video, share it around, tell everyone that we are reviewing films. You can find me on Twitter at OrzovDone. If we have persuaded you to go check out the Boonies for yourself, you can do that. As of November 11th, it is streaming on Amazon, Hoopla, Vimeo On Demand, and Fandango.
I have all of those services, so that's very convenient.
There you go.
I'm Jason E. Alt on Twitter. You can find a pin post at the top of my profile that says all the different projects I work on. Thanks for joining us for another episode of First Cut, and we'll see you next time.